Hi everybody, it's Marcy, and here I'm working on the letter H for Dearjuliejulie September Stash Buster Junk Journal Challenge, and H is for Happy Mail, and if you don't have Happy Mail, you can use Junk Mail or something like that. So, this is the little stack I'm going to be working with, and it's all stacked up so that I don't lose stuff all over my desk. Okay, first thing I'm going to start with is this. The Happy Mail part of this is this pom-pom trim that I received from Karen. I will only be using first names for the Happy Mail because some people don't want their names all over YouTube. So I've got these strips of scrapbook paper that are 1.5 inches wide by 8.5 inches long, so full page size. And nope, I can't start with the trim. I need to start with these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 paper edge borders. So I want the pom-pom on this one to be on this outside and the pom-pom on this one to be on this outside, which is part of the reason that I'm working on them simultaneously, is so that I don't get confused about where I want stuff to go. So I'm just going to take this and glue it down, and I put my glue too far, and I did mark my paper at the midway point. And like I've been trying to do, I did go ahead and ink around my edges and stuff so that I don't have to waste as much of your time doing that. All right. So then and you know, anytime I shoot these videos, it's harsh because, not harsh, but it's always kind of the unknown, because I always plan out what I plan to do, what I think I'm going to use, so on and so forth. But as you've seen as of late, anything can go wrong. Okay, now I'm going to run a bead of Fabri-Tac down this edge so I can lay down the pom-pom trim. And I think this pom-pom trim will work well in here because it looks older, like it has kind of a grungy, older look to it. All right. So then I can cut this one off, and I can already tell you I got lucky because I wasn't paying very much attention. And I managed to keep the entire word. So I got lucky on that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here with this one. And it needs to go on this side. I think I'm going to start here. Okay. And these are going to be really simple page edges, but they'll add a little bit of decoration to a page where maybe I don't, maybe I want most of the page to be left as journaling or for a user to decorate with their own items or memories or things or ephemera, but want to have a little something on the page. All right. Now I will be now I've just got this little bitty scrap of pom-pom left. So I will be sewing down the edges of these, but I'm going to wait to do that because there's one other thing in these makes that I'll need to sew, so I'll just do all my sewing at the same time. So, to be sure I've got my 3 embellishments, I'm just going to, I need that one to go that way. I'm going to add the little butterflies and moths that I've been using, that I fussy cut from my scrapbook paper. Well, I shouldn't say I fussy cut it. My Scan and Cut fussy cut them. But can't believe that after today I only have one letter to go, and that's the ugly or unusual, and I still have no idea what I'm going to do. Now, Julie did say that if the ugly is throwing you, you can do something that is unusual for you to do. Maybe something you've never tried before, something like that. So I do have one idea for that, but I don't know how I would embellish it with 3 things. So that's got me thrown a little bit, but I'll get it figured out eventually. And I could go with ugly, but chances are, if it's something I've bought, then I don't think it's ugly. If it's something I got in Happy Mail, I don't want to call it ugly. And if it's maybe a paper pad or a piece of scrapbook paper that I have that I thought would be great, but I no longer like it, I could do that. My only problem with that is I may pick something as ugly that someone else just thinks it's their absolute favorite piece of scrapbook paper. Okay, so there's my page edges, and I will also be, like I said, sewing down those. But very simply, I'm just going to use those on a couple of pages on the edges where I can have the pom-pom hanging off the edge, but just to have a little something on a page that I otherwise want to leave pretty blank. Okay, then the next thing I want to use is this lovely piece of eco-dyed paper that I received from Sabrina. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's very clean. It doesn't have a lot of the grittiness. It feels like she used maybe watercolor paper, which is, if you've never tried eco-dyeing or have tried and don't like the grittiness. It feels like she used watercolor paper, and watercolor paper does, in my limited experience, work much better because it's meant to withstand so much water that you can really clean off all the little gritties and stuff that you get with eco dyeing. So I've been kind of hoarding that beautiful little piece of paper, so I want to go ahead and use it. And it was a small piece, and all I had to do was trim it ever so slightly. I did round the corners and ink around the edges, and then I cut some coffee dyed paper and rounded those corners. And I'm just gonna very simply make a little notebook. But before I put that in, what I want to do is I'm using this as the front because that is absolutely gorgeous. So I want that to be the inside because I'll just have these coffee dyed papers in there. I'm not going to decorate the inside. It'll just be a little notebook. And so I want the user to have full advantage of seeing those. Okay, so here I've got this Hello Fall little journal card from my scrapbook paper pad, and I'm going to glue it down. Okay, then let me pull my needle out. Let's go ahead and get this trimmed up as best we can. If I trim it about right there, we ought to be good. That'll work. So I'll use a little bit of Fabri-Tac on this. And I'm going to leave the top of the trim above the card because I don't want the lacy part of the trim to cover up the Hello Fall too much. So we'll just tack that down right there. Okay, and now before I go any further, I am going to run to my sewing machine and stitch all of these, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I stitched down the edge of my page edges, so those are now ready to go. And I stitched around the front of that. It does have the stitching inside, but I figure that'll be a great place to put a photograph or something. So, the only other thing I want to add to this is one of my little butterflies. And I think I'll use the Fabri-Tac for that, just since it'll be sitting on top of the lace trim. Okay. And now I'm going to put in my pages. And there's one thing I know all of you have done binding before. And I'm using this, I'm wrapping it around my fingers so you can actually see it. I'm just using crochet thread that I'd picked up, a big roll of it at Hobby Lobby. But one thing I like to do with it is I've got this white candle here. You can see it's not round anymore. It's got edges because I use it for a variety of things. But, you know, just a Dollar Tree kind of candle. And And I do like to wax my thread because A, the thread will not tangle as much, and B, it slides through the binding holes easier. So I like to do that. That's my preference, but that's my little tip. I did have some wax that was intended for that kind of, for waxing thread, but it's gone now, and I needed some, so I just grabbed a little votive candle that I had laying around and used it. Okay, so on this one, I am going to use a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. Let me grab a couple of paper clips. My pages are not super even, so I want to be sure that I'm staying within the confines of the cover. And I'm not going to mark this before. I'm just going to say, okay, that looks to be about halfway. And I'm just using a push pin, maybe. There we go. To make my holes, because I don't need huge holes or anything like that when I'm binding my large journals. I use an awl, but for what I'm doing here, this little push pin works just fine, and then I don't have to pull out all of my binding stuff. So yeah, that has to be watercolor paper. All right. So let's just give this a quick bind. And I hope everybody's doing well today. I'd love to know if you are participating in this challenge, and if so, how you're progressing. I've said before, I'm trying to get these elements made so I can get ready for some other projects going on this month. All right. Take these paper clips out. Be sure my strings are snug enough. That's better. Okay. And I'm going to double knot it. And then I'll just put a little bow in it. I don't necessarily plan to come in and add anything to the center string, but I'll leave it there just in case, and I may come back and do some stamping or stenciling on some of these pages, but I can do that later when I'm putting my journal together. Okay, so there's my second Happy Mail item, and I notice I did not put a closure on this. Well, for right now, I'll use this paper clip. I'd probably use a Tim Holtz tiny clip or something like that. Something a little cuter than that, but that'll hold it for now. All right. So the last thing I want to make is I want to use this large paper clip that I got from Karen again. And I can't tell, I don't know, it's pretty clean cut. Maybe she didn't make it. But anyway, it's kind of a large fat paper clip. And I thought that would be cute in a journal. Again, that could decorate a page unto itself. So, let's start with the hardest part first. So I've got this flower. If you'll recall when I used the negative space and the parchment paper, this is one of the leaves that was cut out that created the negative space. And what I did was I took the stem of the leaf. I'm trying to see if I can find another one real quick. I know I have more in here. There's one. Well, it's not as long, but the stem is not very broad. So what I did is I took the stem and I wrapped it around a toothpick and just rolled it. Now this one is not very long. This one rolled several. I think this one rolled 3 or 4 times. Oops, that didn't actually roll, did it? But I just glued it. So I put the glue on here, and stuck it on the paper clip, and then rolled it down. And that's how I got a little, almost a jump ring. The only problem is my jump ring is not going to be super strong. But I'm going to try to help that. So I apologize for the glare. I'm going to make it go away here in just a moment. Okay. So what I'm going to attempt to do, and I've not done this before, so it'll either work or it will fail, and you will be my witnesses. I'm going to emboss this. I want to grab one other thing. Okay. So I'm just going to use my finger and put this on my Versamark embossing stamp. And I know for many of you this would be a big no-no, but it makes it easier for me. Okay, so that's fine. Except I can see some empty spots. Let's be sure it's all squishy down. That's better. Okay. And I'm also going to use my embossing pen and I'm going to I'm drawing over where that little stem now jump ring is. And I'm going to use the pen because I can still see a couple of dry spots just to be sure I get the coverage I want. All right. And what I'm using is some of Tim Holtz Distress Embossing Glaze. This is the antique linen, so this one will not change the color much. But, and the reason I think this will help strengthen the jump ring is, whoops, the embossing powder, as I understand it, and I did not know this until recently, and it's assuming that what I think I learned is correct, has plastic in it, which melts, and that's kind of what creates the embossing. Okay. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the camera running, but I'm going to mute the audio and I will speed this up while I'm embossing it. I'm going to do this side and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm also going to emboss the other side. Okay, so my embossing is done, and I'm very pleased with the way that worked. Looks like I missed a little spot right there, but I can live with that. The only cautionary tale I will give you is turn your fan off before you start pouring out your embossing powder. But, not that I know that from experience just now, and of course it's a oscillating fan, so it wasn't constantly pointed at me, but I started pouring, I guess, when it was right pointed at me. Yeah, okay. So, that is done. Now, I'm going to take this piece of ribbon that I got from Dollar Tree, and it does not have wire at the edges, but these gold edges, I'm guessing, are made from a metal, because they do crease, from like maybe aluminum, because they do crease and bend. So that's going to allow me to put this through my paper clip. And get it arranged how I might want it. And then what I'm going to do is to help hold my ribbon together and stuff, I'm going to take this button and I'm going to put it up here. Actually, I think what I'm going to do first, because for my button to hold it all, I would need a bigger button. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of Fabri-Tac right down here, just above the top of the paper clip. And let's get rid of some of those thready edges. All right, now I've got this kind of fluffy bundle up here at the top. And I'm going to sew this button on. And to start, I've doubled my thread and I've got a knot at the end. So to start it, I'm going to go to the inside of my ribbon between the two layers and get it started that way. That way that little knotted edge won't show. Come on. Why can I never find the buttonholes when I'm sewing on buttons? Okay, let's try that one more time. There it is. All right. And then let's finish that off. All right. And I'm going to snip that right down to the end. And that Fabri-Tac really is helping it hold very well. Okay. Then, so I've got my ribbon, my button sewn on, and then I can take, oh yeah, now my stem feels nice and firm. And I can take my leaf and just dangle it off my paper clip. So that's what I've got. And of course it could go that way. I probably actually should have put it, I guess if I were going to do it that way, I would do it, come over here and do it like on this side. So there you go. Now, this leaf, I'm not going to lie, it's not going to withstand a ton of pressure. Probably I would do it this way. And this is not the best way to do it. Probably if I'd been really smart, I would have just backed it with some more cardstock and then put a jump ring, an actual jump ring through it. But even if I take the leaf off, that's a cute little paper clip. So there we have it. My 3 Happy Mail items: paper clip from Karen, pom-pom trim from Karen, and the gorgeous eco-dyed paper from Sabrina. So that's it for today, guys. And until next time, I wish you all a wonderfully happy, crafty day, and I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.